What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. NFL Week 15 with some iconic games. Let me start off with my Indianapolis Colts fumble in the bag. I cannot believe they blew this game. They're up 7-13. Jonathan Taylor goes on a 50-yard run to fumble the ball on the 1-yard line. You can't make this up, man. This is like from a bad dream that became a reality. It just sucks to be a Colts fan. We blew this game. We should have easily beat the Denver Broncos. We controlled the whole first half. This was our game to win. This was a statement game. Jonathan Taylor made a bonehead decision, and that's what ultimately led us to losing this game. It's a disaster, man. It sucks. It sucked for fantasy terms because a lot of people drafted Jonathan Taylor in the first round, which was a huge mistake in itself. And it's just like, man, like, where do the Colts go to? Anthony Richardson isn't ready. You know, all these things add up for the Colts, and you just realize, wow, you know, just terrible. You know, Jonathan Taylor this year, 5 total touchdowns all year. That's terrible. Like, come on, bro. Like, they just gave you the bag. They gave you over 40 M's, and you can't really show for it making a mental mistake in this huge game where the Colts need to win this game to make the playoffs. So it's just, it kind of sucks in a way, but I'm not surprised. You know, it's typical Indianapolis Colts. My prediction this year was the Colts will make the playoffs, but right now we're on the outside looking in, and it's going to be, like, honestly hard to get into the playoffs this year because of these mistakes that continue to happen for the Colts. It's terrible, man. It sucks. But shout out to Bo Nix. Even though Bo Nix threw for 3 interceptions this game, he also threw for 3 touchdowns. And Denver Broncos won this game 31-13. It's just a disaster, man. I hate it, dude. It sucks. But it's just the reality being a Colts fan. You got to understand that we haven't been relevant since 2009. 2009, yes. You know, we're coming on 2 decades almost. Like, bro, that's so long ago. 2009, that's insane, but shout out to the Denver Broncos. My prediction on that game was wrong. I got about 3 or 4 games wrong all weekend, so it was really a good weekend to win the loss ratio for me, and I advanced in fantasy football, so I'm not tripping at all. And then we had the Thursday night game, the Rams versus the 49ers. I had the Rams in this game. The Rams did win this game 12-6. It was an ugly game. It really was, and we know that, hey, San Francisco, they're out of the playoffs. They're not going to make it this year. Brock Purdy threw an interception late in this game, what cost them this game, but we look at the Rams. They're 8-6 right now. They're on the outside looking in. The Rams, Sean McVay, you know, they got them guys going, and they always play well towards the end of the season into the playoffs, which makes them a really huge threat in the playoffs this year. So I think with the Rams, Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, even though Cooper Kupp did not get any receptions this game, which is the second time of his career not getting a reception or a yard in a game. That's pretty crazy, right? Yet they still won this game. Shout out to the Rams getting on the win column. I'm telling you, man, the Rams, they're about to take off. They play the Trash Jacks this weekend. They're going to run through them, so I can't wait, man. Shout out to the L.A. Rams getting a huge win. And then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the L.A. Chargers. I had the Bucs. The Bucs did hit. I mean, they went crazy. Shout out to Baker Mayfield. He just went insane. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was just all Baker and Mike Evans. 9 receptions, 159 receiving yards, and 2 tutties. Just typical Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield. They've just been dynamic duo all year, even though Mike Evans has been banged up towards the middle of the season. But right now, Mike Evans has 9 touchdowns, 749 yards receiving. He's probably going to pass the 1,000 yards mark. He's going to continue to ball out, but we look at Tampa Bay, they're 8-6 as well. They're going to probably make the playoffs this year. And the way Baker Mayfield is playing, man, we got to give respect when respect's due. Shout out to Baker Mayfield, man. Like, this guy is a legend. He's took a long road to get where he's at today to really become that franchise quarterback that Tampa Bay needs. After, you know, the GOAT Brady left, after they won the Super Bowl in 2020, I just think right now with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, they are a huge threat in the playoffs. Nobody wants to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll tell you that right now, because when Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans are locked in the way they have been the past couple weeks, they could beat any team in the NFL. So, you know, we saw them earlier this season beat the Detroit Lions in Detroit. So I'm telling you right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a huge threat come playoff time. Shout out to Baker Mayfield. Shout out to one of the greatest receivers of all time, Mike Evans. Let's go! And then we had the Baltimore Ravens running right through the New York Giants. Just straight devastating, man. Shout out to Lamar Jackson. 5 total touchdowns this game. Straight balled out. Went crazy. Derrick Henry had 67 yards rushing. Lamar had 65 yards rushing. And then you had Rashad Bateman. He had 2 touchdowns, 80 yards receiving. So, I have Lamar on my fantasy team, so it makes sense why I'm winning games. Lamar's putting up 4+ touchdowns a game in the past couple weeks, 5 this weekend. So this was probably the easiest bet all weekend. Yes, I didn't like the 16 points that were favorite for Baltimore, but I took it. I took the points. I said, screw it, dude. Like, if the Baltimore Ravens are going to run deep this year in the playoffs, it's going to be because of Lamar Jackson and the way he performs, and he's performing at an MVP-like level. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen alone are leading the MVP race right now. That's just how it goes right now, dude. These two men are just going crazy right now, playing lights out. Shout out to the Baltimore Ravens. They're 9-5. Baltimore's going to continue to win. I think they can win out. They have a tough matchup this weekend at home against the Steelers. Then they play the Texans, then the Browns. So they could easily win all 3 games and just coast into the playoffs right now. So I just think Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens, Derrick Henry, and those guys, nobody wants to face them in the playoffs. They're a huge playoff threat, dude. A heavy run team. Lamar Jackson can utilize the play action pass. He can run. He can throw the ball down the field, whatever he wants to do. So nobody wants to see the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. And let me tell you, the Houston Texans don't. Because if they do, I think Baltimore's just going to run right through the Houston Texans. But huge win by the Baltimore Ravens over the trash New York Giants. And then we got the New York Jets versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had the Jets in this matchup. This was an easy pick. Jets won 32-25. It was easy. Aaron Rodgers, 289 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Breece Hall had a touchdown. Finally, 30 yards rushing for Breece Hall. And then you had Davante Adams, 2 touchdowns, 198 yards receiving. Just typical Davante Adams. That's what he does. He's a baller, and it makes sense why he came there. It's just a little too late for the New York Jets, though. Where was this when all these trades happened? Where was this at the beginning of the year, Aaron Rodgers? Like, what's going to happen? It's just going to be interesting to see this offseason what the New York Jets are going to do. Are they going to roll the dice on Aaron Rodgers one more year? Or are they going to just move on and just get a younger quarterback? Who knows? I do think Aaron Rodgers, knowing him, I do think he's going to come back one more season. I really do. I don't think he's going to end his career the way this season happened the past 2 years in New York. There's no way. Aaron Rodgers has to come back and redeem himself. You have Davante Adams. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Breece Hall. You have all this talent, and yet another failed season there in New York. I think Aaron Rodgers has to come back one more season for just the end of his NFL career. Why not? It makes sense that Aaron Rodgers would end one more season. So I can see Aaron Rodgers coming back. I don't think it'd be a good look for him to retire right now. He's got to come back one more season to redeem himself and make the Jets into the playoffs. At least get into the playoffs and have a shot at one more Super Bowl run if you're Aaron Rodgers. So hopefully Aaron Rodgers does not retire and just has one more season left in New York. That'd be great. But shout out to the New York Jets. They're 4-10. Their season's over with. A lot of rebuilding this offseason for the New York Jets. And then we got the Dallas Cowboys versus the Carolina Panthers. This was the worst pick of my picks all weekend. I picked the Carolina Panthers. I was an idiot for that. It was all Dallas. Dallas ran right through him, 30-14. I should have known better. I'm not even mad. Shout out to Cooper Rush, 214 yards passing and 3 tutties. Just torched them. CeeDee Lamb, 116 yards receiving and a touchdown. You got Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert, each score a touchdown for the Cowboys. And it was all the Cowboys here. And we look at Carolina, Bryce Young, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Not the best game. He also had a rushing touchdown for Bryce Young, but it was all Cowboys here. But like I said, both teams are not going to make the playoffs this year. Both teams are irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys getting a weak win. Like I said, it doesn't matter at all. And then we got the Washington Commanders versus the New Orleans Saints. The Saints went for the game winner for the 2-point conversion and failed. Well, that's what ultimately led the Washington Commanders winning 20-19. This was a huge win for Washington and Jayden Daniels, the rookie. 226 yards passing and 2 touchdowns for the rookie. Terry McLaurin, 73 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns for the Washington Commanders. And they got a huge win. We're looking at the Washington Commanders right now. They're going to be probably a wild card team in the playoffs. And they're another threat in the playoffs this year. Nobody predicted Washington to be where they're at right now. Nobody. Not even Washington. We look at Jayden Daniels. They drafted this man, and he's really taken off this year. And next week's not going to get any easier. They host the Philadelphia Eagles, who's looking really nice, looking like a top 3 NFL team right now. So, Washington's got Philly. They got Atlanta Falcons, which they should win. And then the Cowboys. So if they do lose it, they're going to probably lose to Philly this weekend, but end up winning the last 2 games. But for Washington, man, what a season it's been, man. We got to give homage to Jaden Daniels, dude. 17 touchdowns, only 6 picks, over 3,000 yards passing. I mean, what a rookie season it's been. It's similar to RG3's rookie season in Washington when it was called the Redskins back in 2012. And we remember RG3 went to the playoffs. They ended up losing to Seattle in that playoffs. But it's just interesting to see, man. I love this, man. I want to see Jay Daniels succeed. I want to see the Washington Commanders, win a playoff game. That'd be awesome. But that would just be great. But it's just going to be a long shot. But right now, man, Washington, they're locked in. They got some lucky wins this year. But that's what it takes, man. You got to get some luck involved to really run deep and win a Super Bowl. And then we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Tennessee Titans. I picked the Bengals. I took the 5. That bet hit 37-27. And shout out to the Bengals. And the Bengals still have an outside chance to get in the playoffs. Nobody wants to see the Bengals in the playoffs either with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They just don't. Joe Burrow, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks. Chase Brown had a touchdown, 97 yards of rushing. And then Jamar Chase had 94 yards receiving. 0 touchdowns, though. T. Higgins had a touchdown. But for the Bengals, they have so many weapons offensively. It's always been their defense this year. That's been their kryptonite. That's been their weakness. But right now, they stepped up when they needed to. But for the Bengals, man, obviously every game is a playoff game for the Bengals. It's been that way for the past couple weeks. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Tennessee Titans. Then they host the Cleveland Browns, which they should win. And then they play the Steelers the last game of the season in Denver Broncos. So, for the Cincinnati Bengals, man, they need some luck involved. They need Denver to lose a couple more games. They need a lot of luck involved, but they can still make the playoffs. And with Joe Burrow, the season he's had a great season overall. I mean, we look at it and say, wow, dude, how are they 6-8 right now? Joe Burrow, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, about 4,000 yards passing. So, Joe Burrow's been torching it, dude. Just been going crazy this year. And Cincinnati Bengals have to pay Jamar Chase. If they want to, win a Super Bowl in the future, they're going to pay Jamar Chase, keep him with Joe Burrow. They were in college together, so that's what makes sense for me, dude. They have to pay Jamar Chase. If they don't, they're definitely screwed in that aspect. But shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals getting a huge win over the Tennessee Titans. The over did hit the 46.5. Shout out to the Cincinnati Bengals getting a huge win. And then we got the Kansas City Chiefs beating up on the Cleveland Browns 21-7. I knew Cleveland was going to lose this game. I was never betting against Patrick Mahomes, who had a good game, 2 touchdowns this game, even though he did suffer an ankle injury. He went out early, I think in the 4th quarter of this game. They took Patrick Mahomes out due to a high ankle sprain, but I'm not really worried about it. I think Andy Reid's going to handle this right, and if I was smart, I would really rest Patrick Mahomes till the playoffs. I could give a crap about the 1 seed, blah, blah, blah. You're already in the playoffs. That's all that matters. You're looking for a 3-peat here. What's the best chance for you guys to 3-peat as a team, the first team to ever do in NFL history, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs? And that's not playing Mahomes hurt right now. So I would bench Mahomes. I would keep Mahomes out the next couple weeks till Mahomes is 100%. Why risk it right now? You're already in the playoffs. You don't need Mahomes to go down, even hurt worse. And then the playoffs, Mahomes is just banged up. We don't want that. So if I'm Andy Reid and Kansas City Chiefs, I'm benching Mahomes this weekend at least. Have him set on that ankle. That's fine, dude. Kansas City, you guys had a great season. You do play the Houston Texans, which is a tough game. But, dude, do not push Mahomes, man. You guys are already in the playoffs. You're looking at the bigger picture here for Kansas City. You're looking at the 3-peat. You're not looking at winning this individual game right now this weekend. No. You're looking at a 3-peat here. So I just think they need to handle their cards right and bench Mahomes this weekend. Have Mahomes rest up and get ready for this playoffs for the 3-peat push to ever do it, man. That's what you have to do if you're Patrick Mahomes, is just rest up. And then we got the Miami Dolphins versus the Houston Texans. I picked the Miami Dolphins. I was off on this. They lost by 1 possession, 8 points. We look at Tua, threw for 3 interceptions. And that's why ultimately they lost this game. He threw an interception really late game, and I was just like, why, Tua? Why are you throwing these type of balls? It just does not make sense. And on the flip side, we had C.J. Stroud, 131 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. And we had Nico Collins ball out with 2 touchdowns as well. And it was all Houston in this matchup. And we look at the Miami Dolphins, their chances of making the playoffs are pretty much over with. They'd have to win every single game out. And I'm looking at their The whole program as a whole is the Miami Dolphins. They're like a fast Corvette. Then they eventually depreciate in value over time. That's just what the Miami Dolphins are. They're a fast Corvette. No, just nothing else. They can't go off-road. They can't do this and that. They're just kind of one-dimensional team. So, a down year for the Miami Dolphins yet again, but a huge win for the Houston Texans. And then we got the New England Patriots versus the Arizona Cardinals. I picked the Arizona Cardinals in this matchup, and it hit 17-30. I'm looking at the Patriots. They're just trash. Arizona 7-7. Kyler Murray, 224 yards passing. James Conner, over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And that was the difference maker in this game, was James Conner in that run game for Arizona. That was the difference, and that's what made them win this game. And we look at Arizona, they're 7-7 right now. They play the Carolina Panthers in Carolina next week, and then they got two of their last games are division games. They got the 49ers and the Rams. So for Arizona, you guys are going to have to win out to make the playoffs. So what's it going to be? So I'm looking at Kyler Murray in Arizona and saying, all right, what are you guys going to do? Are you guys going to step up? Or are you guys going to fold? So what's it going to be? So, but shout out to the Arizona Cardinals getting a huge win. And then we had the biggest game all weekend, the Buffalo Bills versus the Detroit Lions. Buffalo Bills went into Detroit and beat Detroit. It was crazy. I picked the Lions in this matchup. I took the -2.5, but I was wrong on this. And we look at the Detroit Lions. They're banged up defensively. They're missing over 11 players defensively, which is tragic for the Detroit Lions. And it makes sense why the Buffalo Bills win. Josh Allen, 362 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. He had 68 yards rushing as well with 2 rushing touchdowns. So Josh Allen went crazy yet again, put up over 50 fantasy points just like Lamar did. Just insane, dude. Like, crazy. But I'm looking at Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. David Montgomery's looking to be out for the season. That's a huge loss for the Detroit Lions. Not to mention all the defensive players that are out for the Detroit Lions. It sucks, man. But that's part of football. It's the next man up mentality. Who knows? Hopefully a couple of those players will be back for the playoffs for Detroit. If not, man, Detroit's just on their last leg right now. So many injuries, from Aiden Hutchinson, the list goes down, dude. It sucks for Dan Campbell right now. But on the flip side is you still have Jared Goff. You still have St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and Laporte and those guys. So, I'm not really too concerned right now. But Detroit, if they're going to want to win a Super Bowl, man, they're going to have some of their defensive players come back, or else they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. They're just not going to, especially with David Montgomery going down. You got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, that dynamic duo. It's crazy, man. But shout out to the Buffalo Bills. They're 11-3 right now. Josh Allen is looking locked in, and the Buffalo Bills are looking nice. Buffalo Bills are looking like the best NFL team right now, just on eyesight right now. Just the way Josh Allen is playing. The difference with Josh Allen this year than his previous years in the NFL is he's not throwing interceptions. He's not throwing dumb balls. He's not doing dumb stuff. He's locked in tune, and just ready to go. So shout out to Josh Allen. He's probably going to win MVP this year, but I think it should be between him and Lamar. But shout out to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills getting a huge victory in Detroit against Detroit Lions this year, who've been great. What a time it is, man. Snap their 11-game winning streak. And then we had the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Philadelphia Eagles, the Battle of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia won this matchup. I was on either side, really. But when George Pickens was out leading up to this game, I was like, yep, let me go Philly here. So I ended up taking Philly last second, which was a huge play by me. And then you had Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdowns, 290 yards passing. A.J. Brown, 110 yards receiving, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. So A.J. Brown, all that trash talk last weekend, made, Jalen Hurts throw the ball to him finally. He just ate this game. And then Saquon Barkley, just 65 yards rushing. Really a quiet game for Saquon, But, they got the win against the Steelers right now. And I'm looking at the Steelers and Russell Wilson is, 13 points, man. That's just not enough. And they do need George Pickens back. Without George Pickens, they don't go anywhere, even in the playoffs. They need him back. T.J. Watt was banged up. They're going to get more on that. T.J. Watt should be back. But shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, man. They're looking nice right now. Philly is 12-2, and I'm telling you, they are locked in. They are locked in. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles. There's still some weaknesses there. I'm not really sold on Philly just yet, but they're 12-2. They're looking nice. And then we got the Green Bay Packers versus the Seattle Seahawks. I picked the Green Bay Packers in this matchup. This was an easy peasy game for me. Jordan Love, 229 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 94 yards rushing and a touchdown. Just went crazy. Romeo Doubs had 2 touchdowns. and it was all Green Bay here. Seattle, Geno Smith was banged up. He threw an interception, but I had Green Bay. This was probably the easiest pick all weekend. Was this pick was the Green Bay pick? It was too easy for me, man. On Sunday night, Green Bay's rolling right now. Jordan Love's looking locked in. Shout to the Green Bay Packers running right through the Seattle Seahawks. And then we had the 2 Monday Night Football games, the Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings. I had the Vikings in this matchup. That bet hit. I had Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown. That bet hit. Justin Jefferson dropped a second touchdown pass, though. So, Justin Jefferson, even the best receivers drop passes. I think he actually had 2 drops this game, which is unlike Justin Jefferson. But Justin Jefferson should have easily had over 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Instead, he had 73 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Jordan Addison had 63 yards receiving, and it was just all Minnesota here. We look at Sam Darnold, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Just kind of not the best Sam Darnold game you like, but hey, a win is a win against a rival here. Minnesota's looking nice as well. They're 12-2. This playoffs push is going to be crazy. They go into Seattle next weekend. So Minnesota, man, I'm telling you, they end up with Green Bay and freaking Detroit Lions. So it's going to be interesting, man. But shout out to the Minnesota Vikings, the scary team right now, the way they're playing. And then we had the last game all weekend, the Atlanta Falcons going into Las Vegas Raiders and beating the Raiders 15-9. Really ugly type of game. The under did hit in this game. Kirk Cousins, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Drake London had the touchdown for Atlanta. And we look at the Raiders, they're done. Desmond Ridder, he had a touchdown and 2 picks. So, just one of those type of games. But shout out to the Atlanta Falcons. They needed to win this game to have a chance to make the playoffs. Now they do. The Atlanta Falcons host the New York Giants next weekend, which they should win that. And then two division games. So, it's going to be interesting to see, man. The last couple weekends of the NFL is going to be crazy. But it's awesome, man. Fantasy football, I was in 3 leagues this year. They were great. I'm out of the 2. But the 2 that I'm out of was a 2-quarterback system league, so it's kind of fluky. And then I'm in experts versus rookies. Shout out to my homie Dunzy. I'm about to repeat in that league. So repeat as champions in fantasy football. It's hard enough. So it's unheard of. But what a weekend for the NFL. What a week 15. Even though my Indianapolis Colts fumbled the bag because of Jonathan Taylor just was boneheaded play. It just sucks overall, man. But shout out to the Baltimore Ravens right now. Baltimore Ravens, Green Bay Packers looking really nice. I'm telling you, so many great teams right now in the late push, from Cincinnati Bengals. Nobody wants to see Cincinnati this year. I cannot wait, man. What a week 15 for the NFL. It's the Clouded with Cam show. Let's go!